Do you have auditions coming up? Me too. And something that I do before auditions is mock auditions. And do you know why? Because when I was auditioning for music schools, my first mock audition that I did was the worst audition that I had ever done for music schools, or even just in general. And I know that I'm not alone. Hello and welcome to the Confident Musicianing Podcast. I'm your host, Eleanor, and after countless practice sessions, a ton of broken reeds, and 7 different music school acceptances in 3 different countries, I have learned a thing or two about savoring your practicing, becoming your best practice companion, and actively working towards your musical goals. And I want to share this with you, because I want you to become your best musical self. Are you with me on this? Let's get started. Hey there, I am so glad that you decided to take the time and hang out with me today. Today we are answering the questions, why are mock auditions necessary, what do I get out of them, and how do I go about doing them? So let's dive in. Why are mock auditions necessary? Because auditioning is a skill. Think about this. Let's say you are baking a cake and you put in every single measurement of flour, of water, of sugar, all in the mixing bowl. Everything is perfect. And then instead of carefully putting the cake mix in the oven at the right temperature, you just throw your cake mix at a fire and hope it becomes a cake. Do you think that's going to work? No, of course not. And so we can't do the same thing with auditioning. Now, in my analogy, the fire versus the oven is the audition room. We all need to know how to audition in order to audition well, and we need to get used to auditioning in order to audition well. So that's what we're going to get into. So I remember the first mock audition I did, I was super duper duper nervous, and I was so glad that I did it because it was one of the worst auditions that I have ever done. I learned a lot. I played really poorly. I struggled with the interview questions, like seriously. In that audition, there was an interview question, and the question was, what is your favorite oboe solo in the oboe repertoire? And of course I have them, but in the spot, I completely forgot absolutely everything. And I even had, the worst part about it is that I even had oboe solos as part of my audition. I literally could have just turned to the stand and been like, this one, if I, completely forgot everything. But I didn't do that. In fact, I accidentally named an English horn solo instead of an oboe solo. And I am so glad that was a mock audition, because I had no idea that my brain would just completely stop working if I was asked questions that I wasn't, I didn't think that I would have gotten asked. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. Because let's think about it for a second. If I had just started doing auditions without that mock audition, then that audition, the really bad one, would have been for a school that I really wanted. And it would have counted. And that would have just not been good. So I'm really glad that I did that mock audition. And I completely recommend doing mock auditions. So now that we've talked about the why of mock auditions, let's have a bit of a chat about the how. Here are a few top points to remember when doing mock auditions that really just came out to me when I was doing my mock auditions. Number 1, doing as many as you possibly can. Seriously, as many as you can. Doing it in front of your teacher, doing it in front of some friends to judge, just getting comfortable with playing your instrument, playing, in front of people. Absolutely any possibility you can, just taking it and playing. Treating mock auditions like real auditions. Researching everything about your audition so that you can mirror it as closely as possible. For instance, are they going to choose excerpts randomly? If so, have someone choose excerpts randomly. If you're going to play straight through everything, then do that in the mock audition. Are there going to be questions? Will you know what the questions are? Try and mirror that as possibly, as close to that as you possibly can. So have maybe some friends or maybe your teacher make up questions that you don't know and maybe you're not necessarily prepared for, and that might really help. I mean, it helped me with that one question that I completely answered incorrectly. Another thing that's really important to note is coming up with questions yourself. In auditions, the panel will always say, do you have any questions? And if you're like, nope, I got a dash, that's not going to look very good. So if you come up with even 2 or 3 questions for the panel and you write them down and you're like, so when they say, what are your questions? Do you have any questions? You can say, yes, here are 2 questions, and just making them really meaningful and really good. When I was auditioning for music school, I printed out a sheet of paper. Like, I wrote questions on a Google Doc and I printed it out and I gave the panel those questions when they asked. I was like, yes, I do. And I have paper for you that has the questions on them. And that made me look really, really prepared and like responsible, and it also just really helped my stress because I didn't have to worry about remembering questions. I already had them written down and I had given them to the panel, and that's just like really, really helpful. Number three, doing mock auditions in different mental and physical states. For instance, do jumping jacks and then do your mock auditions, because your heart rate will be faster when you're doing an audition because you'll be nervous, and your heart rate will also be faster when you're doing jumping jacks, so it's a good mirroring situation. Taking a nap and then right as you wake up, doing your audition or playing through your pieces. Doing it when you're tired, doing it when you're bored, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're hungry. Just like trying to do it in many different states as you possibly can is really beneficial. Now remember, try not to stress about the states. Don't be like, what if I'm like, a little nervous, a little stressed with a side of hunger at the audition? I have to mirror that. Like, it'll be okay. But getting as much experience as you can with just playing your pieces, no matter how you feel, or if you're tired or you're sad or you're hungry or you're tired out or whatever, is really, really beneficial. And lastly, just perform for people. Before my uni auditions, I took every opportunity I could. I was in recitals, I made my own recitals, and I just performed for people. I remember I phoned up friends and was like, hey, can we FaceTime? And I just play my pieces for you. Just absolutely anything. Get creative. Like, it's fun. So performing for friends, for family, for your teacher, even like busking on the street. I never did that, but I mean, if you can, it sounds fun. Even going live on Instagram, if you can, just play for anyone and everyone just to get comfortable, right? Remember, we all need to learn how to audition before we audition. It is a skill just like anything else, and practicing auditioning is super beneficial. So if you have an audition coming up, I wish you the best. Auditions can be super fun. So I encourage you, I invite you to find the fun in it, okay? If you have an audition coming up and you haven't listened to episode 8 of the podcast, it is called Sweaty Palms, 3 Things to Tell Yourself Right Before That Audition. It is super, super helpful. In there, I dive into, 3 things that I tell myself before that audition that really help me get confident, get calm, get focused, and really, be ready for that audition. So if you're interested in that, if you have an audition coming up, I highly recommend listening to that. I will link it in the show notes in the description. But if you have an audition coming up, I hope that it goes well. I wish you the best, and yeah. So that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. That is so lovely of you. I hope to see you in the next episode. But in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful day and happy practicing. Bye!